Let's invite some people up to stage. Thanks for joining us again, Mary.
Thank you, Simon. First, we have Milad.
Yeah. And let's also try and bring up some people that don't normally talk as well. That would be great.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Can you guys hear me?
Hey, Navad, how you doing?
Doing good, thanks. So, yeah, I'm a Celsius creditor from Quebec, Canada. So I listened in. I mean, we're seeing what's happening with the FTX, Voyager, Celsius. So, Simon, I was listening a lot on your strategy, on your reorg, and definitely I don't see any tokenization in there. I don't think there's going to be like a Bank to the Future token or anything. So, I don't know if you want to just talk more about that, just to understand the difference with your plan versus what we're seeing out there.
Yeah, so I wanted to put together my best thinking in terms of ideas of how to make this bidding process work in creditors' favor. So after spending, thousands of hours, I think, or maybe that's an exaggeration, probably, really understanding the situation, reverse engineering everything, I created that 7-part video series. And I originally, when I was, as a shareholder in Celsius and the 21st largest creditor, when they did the pause, well, firstly, before the pause, I tried to give them a regulatory plan, which wasn't implemented. I then gave them some lessons after the pause before they went into Chapter 11 on how we resolved through a security token. And then after Chapter 11, I started to work on what I thought was a more appropriate plan and release those ideas in the 7-part video series, which doesn't involve a token. And so, yeah, it's about filling the hole with securities, giving people their funds in custody, and essentially using the bidding process so that we don't get shut down by the examination reports, and learning from what happened with Voyager when they tried to reorg, and essentially regulators object, and it takes this really long process. And so they have to go through the bidding process. And then, understanding the bidding process and making sure that we're ready for that. So we started engaging in M&A activity with Salt. We've got several more to announce when those can be announced, and making sure that we're able to effectively have a business that has no dependency upon a token, and uses securities in order to try and fill some of the hole and gives everyone back their funds through custody. And then have a business model where it doesn't require them to keep their funds with us or us take their staking and try and plug our own hole using their stakes, but just gives people their funds, but doesn't depend upon people keeping their funds, and voluntarily, if we can rebuild trust. And then we make everyone an equity holder in that. I know that's a big mouthful, but that's essentially, that's the best thinking we could come up with, and we're deep into that process right now. Was there a specific question on that, or if not, we'll move to the next person. Hello, you there, Mary?
Yes, John Q could go ahead and speak.
Yeah, hey Simon. Again, what you're doing in this space is amazing, and thanks again for stepping up and being a leader here. And it's you've got me backing you fully, my wife backing you, and we really appreciate the hard work. We know what you're going through, so thanks again. Just a quick question I had with all the developments going on with the debacle with Binance and FTX. Do you think that if Binance, this is just, I know, an opinion maybe, but do you think that if CZ stepped up and wanted to join the bidding on the Celsius assets, do you think that he would, Binance US would have the regulatory licenses needed to make something work if they were to win the bid? That was my question.
Okay, so yeah, I had several chats with CZ throughout this whole process. You know, there was a moment when I told people that we were looking to put together a syndicate for a bailout. Sorry, if you can mute yourself, it's a bit. There we go. And you know, I spoke to everybody in the industry to see what was possible and put together a syndicate. And obviously, everything has evolved as more and more has unwound. So, in order to execute the proposal that we put through, you need US and non-US regulated lending. You need US and non-US regulated securities, and you need US and non-US either money transmitters, MSBs, or a bank charter. And so obviously at Bank to the Future, we funded bank charters, securities businesses. We've funded over 100 different companies in the industry, security token platforms, trading platforms, exchanges, everything. So we immediately put together the structure that we knew would be needed based upon, you know, our years and years and years of seeing where these things go wrong and the regulatory attacks. So Binance, unfortunately, this is where a little bit of karma comes in, was taken out of the Voyager process because, from my perspective, Sam Bankman-Fried decided to use his leverage from his token in order to control some of the political process, and that resulted in utilizing some of the sanctions and political tensions between China and US. And so because you know, the Binance was originally created in China, and you know, CZ, I was at the meeting when he launched, pitched the BNB token. He soon realized that there was he needed to get out of China, and that background and the original backers started to create political tension and took them out of the process essentially. So you know, we will, as we said, we'll try and, you know, we've been focusing on the security side, and we've been building relationships with different players, and we'll try and put together what we think is a model that they would, that the regulators would say, this is the only thing we're going to allow out of Chapter 11 without a Chapter 7. And that's been our entire focus, and it's been incredibly stressful, incredibly hard. But also Binance is in the market trying to buy banks. FTX was trying to buy some of our portfolio companies. When you're a shareholder in over 100 different companies, you get access to certain disclosures that helps you try and get ahead of these things. But you know, the Binance, unfortunately, has been categorized in the middle of the China versus US political tensions. So we'll see.
Thanks for your
All right.
question, John.
Yeah, thank you, Simon, and may the force be with you, my friend.
Thank you.
Next, we have Disc Golf.
Hi, my name's Ken. Thank you for taking this. I'm an accredited investor in the United States. I purchased CEL token through OTC trades twice. I have mainly USDC and CEL holdings. My question is, will CEL token be treated differently if the token was given as a reward versus purchased on the market? I believe I've heard you previously say that CEL payout will be 75 cents. I was told that these OTC trades by Celsius were actually bought on the outside market, but I'm expecting that was a lie. Thank you for taking my question.
Yeah, I mean, you probably bought Alex's tokens or the tokens on Treasury, and then your funds were probably used to manipulate the markets. Yeah, unfortunately, you were probably exit liquidity. The most important thing is that we get through the bidding process before the examiner starts to go really, really deep into all of that stuff. And I've already started to see the FTC announced that you know, they're giving an extension till I think the end of April until they probably come down really hard, depending on whether we get, you know, whether there's even entertained a reorg or anything like that. But in terms of the situation, in video one of the video series, I shared how I would do things. And I would burn the cell token because I don't think it will get past regulators. But everybody that is victims would use the bankruptcy code in order to get their fair pro rata share of the bankruptcy estate. And that would consist of securities, Bitcoin and ETH was my suggestion. We're already starting to see the nightmare of payment in kind that came from the Voyager settlement, and all of the challenges around that. But there's a couple of different models. But if you see how the payment in kind worked in Voyager, it's caused so much confusion, dollar settlement in some coins, and all sorts of problems trying to rebalance, and then not really knowing where you're at because the estate is unknown. So yeah, anyone. I immediately tried to make the distinction really early on when all the cell token people were really attacking me. The cell token in the app is a creditor, and should be treated as a creditor. And cell token outside the app have liquidity, and they're a speculator and should be treated as a speculator because they have that liquidity. So the bankruptcy code requires that your pro rata entitlement is based upon the price at the time of the petition, which is the bankruptcy filing. So that would set your entitlement, and then you just got to look at what the estate would be. And I suggested turning the estate into Bitcoin, ETH, and securities, and then giving everyone their pro rata share of Bitcoin, ETH, and securities, and then trying to build a security that could fill the hole. Was essentially that. So yeah, it would be the Bitcoin price at the petition date that would determine. And some people are trying to figure out how to maximize the value of cell token, but I think that will lead to the destruction of the estate and potential Chapter 7 process, and all of the problems with that. So I don't think we should be doing that.
Thanks for your question, Ken. Next, we have Craig Parkin.
Yes, Simon. I'm in custody, and I'm a big supporter of what you're doing also. I'm in a group of Celsius leaders in their groups of the different preferences. And right now, custody really feels like that they have like a super good chance. And, they're not so inclined to look at anything less than like 100%. And I've been trying to tell them that we need to look at all the options. Could you speak to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, custody, because Celsius in the Kirkland strategy wanted to prove that the coins, the vast majority of the coins belong to Celsius because it was part of their process to executing, a strategy. They jumped on the whole the custody argument very early. And custody was a regulatory strategy based upon a cease and desist order. And so the whole custody and withhold explanation of how everything works has now been released. And Celsius still want to make custody property to get the argument that they're pretty much going to get anyway, I think, that they own all the coins in EARN. And custody probably have a very good chance of getting 100% based upon the superficial argument of terms and conditions. But then there will be a counter argument, because if custody believe that they've got a slam dunk and they don't start speaking with the other groups, then there's going to be motions filed as soon as we get the settlement of property on December the 10th. So I tried to create a message to the judge saying that there's 8 different types of people that are all going to object as soon as you rule on one of them. And so I wanted everyone to firstly get together, and the groups did, and we've been trying to support. So firstly, let them know, let's lower the tensions a little bit, because we're not fighting over 2 little coins. We're fighting over whether you want coins or whether you want a security. And once you understand whether that security is something that you might want, we can just reduce the tension, stop arguing, and stop ending up in prisoner's dilemma. There's just too many people anyway, because you can't make decisions for everybody. in the Bitfinex scenario, everyone had to accept the terms in settlement. So you can't make decisions for other people no matter what. But everyone should just become comfortable with, if they win or lose what they want, they may be able to get what they want anyway. It just might not be the ideal scenario. But if you just try and go at it on your own, you're going to end up in prisoner's dilemma, where it will be settled, or it will try to be settled in court, and then there'll be motions and objections, and everyone will go into scarcity mode. So everyone should kind of understand what game they're playing here. And if we don't get all of those settled as per the video I released, we're going to end up with weeks and weeks and weeks of delays, and potentially end up with an examiner report coming out that puts us in Chapter 7, a reorg plan that then gets objected and goes on forever, and just really doesn't get us where we want to go, which is everyone in custody in the end, which is where I'm trying to get people to go. So yeah, please do continue those conversations, and I think what I would say to custody is, it's okay to think you've got a really, really good case, and you probably do, but make sure that the judge is ruling on all of the cases together, and you kind of understand what the overall strategy as the group leaders are, because you're going to get weeks and weeks of delays if we don't do it as a group. Thank you.
You're right. Thanks for your question, Craig. I'm going to get to everyone as soon as I can. There's a lot of people in the queue, so thanks so much for your patience. Next, we have Jimmy. Jimmy, are you there?
Yeah, hello, Simon. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear Jimmy?
Okay, I had a question. So let's say hypothetically you win the bid and everything goes to Bank to the Future. Do I need to create an account with Bank to the Future now, or is that something I should wait? Or
So theoretically, if we were going to bid and execute a creditor-led recovery plan along the lines of the 7-part video series, and try and put together a result where everybody gets their coins in custody and security, then that will only happen if we can demonstrate that we've got enough capital and enough support. And so we've been working on features at Bank to the Future for a new Chapter 11 bidding process, and we'll be releasing that over the next few weeks. And everybody that wants to ensure this happens should have an account on Bank to the Future, both verified and certified. Because we have to comply with securities laws, we have to do a lot of human checks of documents. It's not as straightforward as the uncompliant services where you just quickly do a selfie. So there's a bit of a queue for accounts at the moment. But we're releasing several features. The first is the ability to be able to lend across to an earn program in order to win the bid, the ability to get deep discounted equity in order to win a bid, and then the ability to trade your claims with somebody else that maybe they want a security, and the ability to actually, exercise some influence and vote, given all the crazy polls that everyone started paying, Twitter polls in order to try and influence them. We want to do it with verified and certified accounts. So long way of saying, please create your account in advance. There will be a bit of a waiting list. And yes, that will be needed if we end up on the other side of a bid.
I have one more question for you, Simon. I started the verification process, but there's a section where it asks you about your what can I say? It's like a questionnaire that you have to answer about your investment investor status. I can't answer, like I can't continue. Is that something that I need to continue with? Is just the verification enough?
Yeah, so no, we have to have, basically we implemented, when we reformed securities laws way back in the day, we implemented several things, which is one, a suitability test, where investors have to demonstrate that they understand the risks of investing in securities. And so there's a quiz. And then the second thing is understanding your net worth, so we can ensure that you're not investing too much in risky assets. Part of passing that process is you have to get the questions right on the quiz, and you have to get 100%. And so it will keep asking you to go through it again until you get them right. So check out the risk warnings, and maybe our team. I know we used to have a tutorial, but when we rebuilt BFID to meet all the new compliance, I think it may have got lost in that process. But yeah, you do have to go through that process so that we know, your exact financial situation and your demonstration of understanding the risks.
Thank you for your questions. Next, Gurdeep.
Hi Simon, I would like to know, is KuCoin is the next FTX or it's safer than others?
Firstly, I can't really make a recommendation, but any flywheel, any company that has a token at the backbone of their model, I would be deeply skeptical about at the moment. And remember exchanges. I mean, this is the bit that everyone needs to learn. Exchanges are just places where you park your tokens while you're wanting to trade them. They're not places to store. If you want to store, you want a custody service, or you want self-custody. And you need to manage those risks effectively. So one of the things I really want to do at the other side of this whole process is help people. We created that program, the Retirement Plan B program, wealth management program, to help people understand their percentages based upon their current financial position, and how much should be, based upon their situation, should be in savings versus investment, how much should be in self-custody versus custody, how much should be at risk in investing. So you just plug in your numbers and it calculates it all for you. So that's something I really look forward to next year, relaunching and supporting people through, especially if they're shareholders and we get on the other side of this bidding process. But all exchanges are risky at the moment. Full disclosure, I'm a shareholder in several one of them. I know we've got Jesse Powell here who created. I was on a call earlier with Paolo from Bitfinex, and also shareholder in Coinbase and Bitstamp and various others. But KuCoin, that's definitely not somewhere I'm comfortable leaving my funds.
Thanks for your question. Mr. Elwright. Mr. Elwright. Hey, guess he can't hear. We're going to have Daylong next. He's connecting. Go ahead, Daylong.
Hi, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you are. Hey, buddy, I'm on the phone, pal. Sorry, I got little kids here. Quick question, Simon. I think there might be one sort of, not really a flaw in your plan, just something that I haven't heard you talk about. You may have. I think the judge is going to be, well, you'll agree with this. The judge is going to be dramatically concerned about the small investor more than someone, for example, who's an accredited investor like myself. Is there any way we could pump out, I don't know, for an account that has less than $15,000, get them all, if you were to win the bid, if you were bidding, of course, hypothetically, to pump out that a small amount of money to those people or their entire accounts, just to get them off the books and to make the judge's decision a little bit easier. And the second thing I want to say, if Thomas Scott, if you're listening, could you please put a thumbs up that you showed Judge Glenn the 8 tranche argument that Simon made very effectively the other day. We'd really like to know to make sure that Judge Glenn saw it. And that's it. That's it for me today. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so if we were involved in that process, I think that might actually be a decision that's made for us rather than a part of the bid. It wasn't part of the FTX bid for Voyager, but it might be part of this. I'm listening, completely open to such suggestions. Because even for us, we prefer a minimum account size in order to be able to manage finance effectively. So yeah, perfect. I mean, yeah, with the Celsius situation, there's like 300,000 accounts that are like less than $1,000 or something as well. So whatever the trigger point is, I'm open to your suggestions. Tweet me what you think is right, I will read those tweets and happy to engage in any kind of dialogue or suggestions around that. Anything you would like to see in any of these plans that you think is sensible, please do tweet me, and let's get a public debate going as well, and other people can add to that. Thank you.
Thanks for that question. Simon, I don't see Azad in the room anymore, and I just wanted to know when you wanted to do a hard stop.
I've just let Azad co-host, and again, and yeah, I'll carry on. Let me just check the time. I do have a meeting at about, I think, yeah. Let's just keep going. I'll let you know.
Okay. Next we have Karen.
Oh, is that me?
Yes, it's you. Welcome.
Oh, hi. Hi, thank you. Look, I do have a question. I have set up my Bank to the Future Celsius account in my personal name. It was just carrying on from the gentleman before that was talking about setting up his account. And but the majority of my funds are in a company account, a trustee superannuation, so it's a bit more complicated. And I've gotten through the quiz, etc. But what I'm finding difficult is the amount of documentation you need, and I'm not actually sure what those documentations require, what they are. And I don't know if there's a valid question for this AMA, but I have been trying to reach out to support, but it's just quite convoluted. I'm not sure how to get past that.
Okay. Yeah, the org accounts are infinitely more complicated. So if you've got an org or a trust or a pension or anything like that, it's going to take a little while to get through that, because all of the trustees, the directors, the shareholders need to be verified in order for us to meet our regulatory requirements. Please do reach out to the support team. Just hit the support button. They will get back to you, and they will help you through that. We do have org accounts, so you got to make sure you just separate your individual account and your org account, and you're signing up with separate emails. But please do contact support, and they should be able to help you figure out what those documents are.
Thanks for your questions, Karen. Next we have Keystones.
Thanks for letting me up. It kind of feels like over the last few days, or last month really, we've had so many different things happening. You know, in the UK, we've had Rishi become the Prime Minister, and only very recently we've got the seizure of the Bitcoin, the SEC versus the library, and now we've got the FTX Binance. So much seems to be happening very recently. Is there something major coming, or is it? I don't know. It just kind of feels like everything suddenly happens at once. Maybe it's just November itself. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, I did call it the Great Depression of the 2020s. And in the video series, I tried to warn people about what was coming. And because the central banks decided to pump up the markets through excessive money printing during the pandemic, they created a final real estate bubble that made people have a sense of calm that they shouldn't have had. And so we are now seeing it. I believe that we're at the end of a debt cycle, a changing empire, and thank God Bitcoin's had over a decade in order to mature. All of these trends are coming together. I don't know whether you're an astrology person, but there's a lot to read into that if you believe into those. Like a lot of this, they talk about these cycles. And I did quite a lot of work on that when I was looking at finance and how it relates to ancient Egypt, astronomy, and various other things, and astrology. But yeah, I believe that a lot of trends are coming together. We're at the end of a debt cycle. We're at a shifting change of an empire. That normally means that you get massive wealth inequality, extreme left and right popularism, an extreme leaders that that drive a lot of divide, and then that leads to some kind of technology or trade or cyber war, or at the worst case military war. and you need to be protected for all of these things. So the crypto markets, this is a usual cycle. We've been seeing this before. Although it is a new and bigger flavor, it's the same as what we see every time. And so if it draws any comfort, we have seen this before, and we do go through these cycles. This was just each time they get a bigger and bigger one. And then we've got all the regulatory side as well, because now we've reached a size where we can't be ignored. And so that's kind of where we are right now. But yeah, it's been a crazy roller coaster over the last few months. And I think it leads to consolidation. I did predict a lot of M&A consolidation, and we started to see a lot of that at Bank to the Future. And we started to see the exposure of these tokens that just keep coming time and time again when people just build these businesses based upon these tokens that causes this cyclical problem.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier in this at the beginning how for you it kind of felt like things were very unwinding now. So no, thank you so much for your insight. It's always fantastic to hear everything.
No worries. And these are, I know that they're painful, but these are my favorite times in crypto. And I know that that's really hard to hear if you're struggling. And so I'd say a couple of things on that. Firstly, just appreciating the power of gratitude, that your biggest problems right now are somebody's problems that they would really kill to have. And so if your biggest problem right now is you've got funds locked up on Celsius, there's a lot of people where that problem is something they would kill for. So it's trying to understand gratitude. And then secondly, that if you get through this cycle and you continue through a 4-year cycle in these Bitcoin cycles, you're going to be a lot smarter at the other side. And I absolutely believe you are in the right place at the right time when there are billions of people around the world that are only going to learn this the really, really hard way. And you're here. So try and be grateful for that if you can.
Thanks for your question. And again, everyone, thank you for your patience. I have many in the queue and I'm trying to get to you. Next, we have Lawrence.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. And Simon, thanks so much for being so consistent with the community. Keep jumping on in these spaces. It's really helpful to kind of stay up to date with things with someone kind of respected like yourself. I just wanted to bring up, I was in a room yesterday, and the reason I wanted to bring this up is because Thomas Di Fiore, if I'm saying that right, was in the room also. And it concerns me because I didn't want to waste my time and bother with those people. And I think that JK and a room run by Ron Paul, they were having a room yesterday, and unfortunately your name got brought up, and I thought it was a bit disrespectful because you wasn't there to actually be able to defend yourself. But ultimately, a couple of points got brought up, and I just wondered if you could respond to them just in front of this audience, just so that at least there's a kind of right to reply.
Sure.
Firstly, they were explaining that when you do sign up to your platform, that the terms and conditions are extremely long. I mean, I personally thought that's a good thing given what's been happened with Celsius and actually having a bit of structure. And secondly, was that if you do sign up, they were questioning whether you're screwed if you do that, because effectively you take control of all assets. So I just wondered if you could speak to that as an idea.
Sure, yeah. Because we're the longest standing company in Bitcoin and the first regulated crypto securities business, we've seen it all because we've been through every cycle. So every time we learn something new, we update our processes and terms and conditions in order to meet these new circumstances. And when you log in, we give you a quick summary of any changes. But yeah, there's no real way of avoiding long terms and conditions because there's a lot of different innovations that we've done over the years and lots of different securities and different products. So unfortunately, we can't change that, but it's really a factor of seeing so many different things and trying to think of solutions based upon all of the different things that we've seen. And that leads to the terms and conditions. The second thing is the model that we created was segregation of shares and segregation of funds. And so when you, if the Bank to the Future platform goes bust, then, for example, if you're a US customer, you register with a US broker dealer, and if you're holding funds on the platform, they're held segregated from the platform. And if you hold securities with us, shares, then they're held in your name and title, segregated from the main platform. So if we ever entered into a Chapter 11 process, these assets are not ours. So it's the opposite of Celsius. These assets are yours and they're segregated. And we designed that very, very carefully over a long period of time and tested it on multiple, had so many regulators over the years contact us. So it's complex, but we've built BFID so that you can onboard in compliance with your local regulations, and the platform is segregated from your assets so that if we ever went bust, those assets are held in your name and segregated, and another custodian can take over and deliver those to you. That's part of being when you're a regulated company, you have to have all of these disaster recoveries, business continuity policies, and they force you to go through and stress test these different scenarios. And that's really one of the point of being a centralized regulated company.
Yeah, and I appreciate the answer. And just a kind of a follow up, just because of what I heard in the room yesterday, I think that all makes exact sense. And it's frustrating when you go in, and I do like hearing kind of the balance. You know, I'm a pro Simon kind of plan supporter. And I do go into the other rooms just to kind of maybe get a bit of balance. But where I struggle with some of those other rooms, and hopefully I speak for other people as well, is that when they maybe knock in your plan or don't think it's up to scratch or not get us anywhere, it's annoying to hear when no one else is suggesting anything else as an alternative. And the only other kind of thing we have to go off is kind of Otis's plan or what have you, which quite clearly isn't going to be viable. So, you know, it's just a gripe of mine when I'm kind of listening to the fodder in other rooms. But thank you so much.
Yeah, the one thing I would say, having invested in so many companies over the years, I tried to think about what were the successful investments and what were the failed investments. So obviously, Celsius was an epic failure for us, our worst failure of all. But our most successful investments were companies like Kraken and various other ones. And I looked back at what were all the moments that went wrong and what were the ones that went right. And it really came down to a sense of two things, which is the ethics of the board and the founding team. But ethics aren't enough because you need to be capable too. And so capability I measure with track record. And so I think the sweet spot, when I look at something like a Kraken, it was, Jesse Powell and two people that were on the Bitcoin mission that had all the right ethos and ethics, and then also turned out to be very capable too. So when analyzing who you're talking to, try and think about the track record of capability and the ethos and ethics of, and I think this has really played out in the Celsius scenario. So we saw people that seemed to be very capable, but then it turned out it was illusion and a flywheel. And then we looked at the ethics and we could see who withdrew their funds against their clients and who stayed with their clients, and who was saying the opposite of what turned out to be true. So, the other thing that I say is always apply what I call I learned this from Ray Dalio Principles book. It's called a believability ratio. And what he does within his company is, for example, if I start talking to you about, vegetarianism versus carnivorism or something like that, put less believability ratio on if I start talking about finance. And what we tend to do is we conflate experiences that we have with people to their believability on a subject that they're not an expert in. And I think maybe I'm wrong, But if you look through the last 5 months, I think there's a consistent track record of I say things that nobody believes, they push back, and then they turn out to be exactly what happens. And sometimes I get things wrong. I'm not obviously that, but it just comes from experience and having seen everything before, and a guided purpose of believing that what I'm doing is right for creditors. And I think if what I'm doing is not right for creditors, I think that would have come across. And I think we've seen so many people pivot their thinking throughout this whole process. That's because I don't think they had that guiding thing. So it's frustrating to me, but I also do believe in pushback and triangulation and seeing what people are saying so that we can be better, and building plans based upon the criticisms of others. Is chaotic, it's frustrating, but it seems to be that we're involved in this crowdsourced process, and I'm hoping that at the end of this we're going to get the best result that's possible based upon the collective intelligence of the community and pushing back where it needs to be pushed back, and then believing where it needs to be believed.
Awesome. Next, we have Blockchain Creole, Mr. Wright, and then after that, OSBTC.
Yeah, sorry, I'll just add one more thing as well. On the regulatory side, we're going to get scrutinized. If our model's not good enough, this isn't going to get through the process. You've got every regulator that's important looking at this. So you're not going to find a cat or a lemon on Twitter that's going to know more due diligence about the regulatory side than the actual regulators themselves. So if we're not perfect, there's no such thing as perfect compliance. It's a constantly evolving situation. But I don't think we'll get through this process if we have these big gaping holes that people are trying to find.
Great. Blockchain Creole. Okay, we're going to move on to OSBTC.
Does that mean I'm next?
We can hear you. Go for it. I can't currently hear anything. I'm not sure if it's me.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I can't hear him either.
Okay, I can hear you now, Mary.
Okay. Also, are you speaking?
No.
Okay, I guess he's not connecting right now with the speaker, and it's going to be BitShack. He's still connecting. BitShack.
Hi there, guys. Oz, just unmute your mic and then speak, dude.
He's struggling, so you might as well take a bit.
Okay. Simon, two questions. One, with this FTX thing that happened, what's the Voyager scenario? Is that only with regards to the US base FTX deal, or would that deal still stand?
It's hard for me to predict right now without more information, but I don't believe that their US model wasn't exposed to the solvency of the token. Now, traditionally, you do have to have segregated liquidity and capital requirements if you're regulated. So my understanding is that they don't have a US regulated securities business. But they do have the money transmitter side, from what I'm saying. So those will have different requirements, but I'd really need to be able to get into the data room, I think, which CZ is in, to be able to answer that question effectively. But no, I believe that these are completely interrelated.
Okay, so high probability that it would affect the deal.
I think it would be reckless to not ask these questions and to sell a company to something that has so much uncertainty. We'll see. I don't know the answer to that yet, but I will certainly try and dig into the answer as more information progresses.
Thanks, Shaq. We're going to try BTC again. Can you unmute your mic? Okay, you want to ask BTC, can you unmute your mic? I'll move on if you can't do that. All right, let's go to Crypto Info Chain.
Yeah, hello guys. I'm trying to catch up with what's going on in the market, but I thought that after reaching a deal like Binance wanna buy FTX, I thought like everything should go back to normal, right? So what's the reason of keep dumping everything is falling, even though this reach kind of agreement?
Well, it's just a letter of intent. So when Salt and us did a deal, we signed a letter of intent, and it takes months to get through the details. And we've been, going through those details. There's lots to do, and you have to pay lawyers a lot of money in order to, get those things right. FTX and Binance are infinitely more complicated than Salt and us, and so, it's a. If you're speculating based upon news, then you're doing something wrong. I used to work as a market maker, and part of my job was when news was released, we used to create trends, and then we'd be on the phone to the institutional, and then they would be selling their positions into those trends. So, my pet hate is trading. And if you're like trading into these news, I think you're going to get wrecked because there's so much more to this, and you've got so much involved. Like you've got competition, you've got trade, trust, antitrust. You've got global regulations. You've got multiple. In order to switch change a company, you've got to get approval from all those regulators. The complexity of this deal would take a long, long time, and it may get massive objection for political reasons. So to say that it's a job done just because you've signed a letter of intent, the devil's really in the detail. Also, we don't know what those positions are. They've disclosed their exposure. That's dependent upon a volatile asset. You've got two flywheel companies that have made a token the backbone. There's all sorts of investigations from regulators around all of that. You got a complex situation there to resolve. Okay, who's next?
Hey, can I make a question on no queue or?
Go for it. I think Mary's struggling.
Okay. Hey, Simon, how are you doing? I guess I wanted to touch into this upcoming bidding process. If I follow correctly, Alex came in, said you have to go through the process. Then I believe you are into the bidding, trying to get the community, etc. And at one point, I felt you're trying to get more support because it would be difficult to compete against FTX on the bidding, So, and lately, I felt that the community was a little bit positive that FTX out of the way would be better for Celsius somehow. I just want to see what do we know about this bidding process? Who is in there? And what is your view now going into this? Thank you.
Yeah, so firstly, I'm unable to discuss non-public information, but the process in general, based upon public information, is that Celsius is putting together an auction process, and the process involves the UCC, the Celsius engaging an investment bank, and it is our belief that a reorg can't happen, or it's my belief a reorg can't happen based upon all the professionals that I've engaged in this process, because it would be like creating a loophole in regulations by allowing it to get through. So there's a bit of division, and the community is kind of being defined as those that are creditors and that have a lot of skin in the game, versus those that aren't necessarily creditors but have a psychological attachment to Celsius as a company because they may have felt financially free at one stage and now they're trying to get back to what it was, versus those that have tokens outside the app and have an ulterior agenda to creditors. And so I try to always focus on creditors because I'm not really trying to do anything for anyone else. I'm the 21st largest creditor, and I've spent a lot of time trying to understand creditors and make those distinctions. And unfortunately, or fortunately, there's lots of anonymous people where you don't really know their true agendas, and you don't really know whether they're working for you or working against you. So the process is right now that I believe that the FTC, the SEC, the CFTC, 60 different state regulators have recognized that if you attack them with an examination before the end of this bidding process, firstly, the examiner needs to focus on who owns what. Then it can start looking at sell token and misrepresentations. But I think they're giving us to get through this bidding process before they come down hard on the previous people involved in this, the previous management, and still the director of the holding company. So in my estimation, it is completely reckless to gamble this process on a standalone reorg. And so therefore you've got to get through the bidding process, and getting through the bidding process, you need a bidder that's not going to buy up just distressed assets, but is actually going to work in the interest of creditors. So I tried to release what I would do if I were involved in that process, tried to put together all the structure that's needed well ahead of time so that when it's needed, we're ready. And now we're building the features in order to allow the community, if they have accounts on Bank to the Future, to verify and certify their accounts to prove that they are actually a creditor and not somebody that's buying 4,000 Twitter poll votes in order to try and change the perception of things, which we've seen. And then people can import their Celsius balance onto Bank to the Future, and then we can start to actually get real. People can essentially vote with their money. And we're releasing several features in order to make that possible, so we can genuinely have a creditor-led. And then at the end of the bidding process, as long as you're not buying just for cash, creditors actually get to vote on the plan. So if anyone in the bid screwed them over, they could just vote against it. And that requires 50% vote from those who vote and are creditors, and 2/3 of the value, which consists of the top creditors in terms of value. And so we've been through a bit of a political process in order to get where we are. And I believe that we're now positioned in a much better position because of the work we've done. But there are some vocal few that have different agendas or different beliefs around how this process works.
Yeah. From the two polls, I believe you have a majority supporting you in this. So, okay, thanks very much for. So I will understand you believe it's a positive now without FTX, or are you seeing Binance CZ as a potentially or?
No, I've always had a good relationship with CZ. I'm skeptical about any business model built on a flywheel, but I believe that while we think very differently, I believe that he has the strength of character and capability. But then there's market forces and tokens that drive you into things that you don't necessarily want to do, that create regulatory attacks and speculative attacks like we've seen with FTX.
Right. Okay. I won't take more of your time here. You can drop me down there for next people to ask questions. So thanks very much, Simon.
Okay, I'm going to make Mary co-host again. I think we're having issues.
Okay. I guess.
Okay, who's next? Okay, Mary's up now.
Yeah, I think there's a
I felt lost.
I think there's a Twitter Spaces overload going on. A lot of really wacky things going on. Thanks for your patience, everybody. And sorry about that. Matt, are you still there? Matt? Okay, Matt's not there.
I am here. I'm here. Sorry about
No
that.
worries.
Yeah, so obviously a lot's going on with the FTT token right now, and there's a lot of people saying, hey, other exchanges like BlockFi have been bailed out with the FTT token, and now that token is collapsing, I think that's why we're seeing the market crash right now. Is that a short-term, I guess, bear FUD, or is there a reality to that and something that could really hurt the market?
I think the most dangerous saying in crypto is FUD. I think so many people have got caught off guard by someone pointing out a genuine problem and then them calling it FUD. You know, when I said that you won't hear from Alex again, they called it FUD. We did hear from Alex again. I couldn't believe that he would ignore his lawyers and ego would take over to try and embarrass me and lie again. But they said it was FUD. When I said that there's a multi-billion-dollar hole in Celsius, they told me it was FUD. When I said that Celsius was going into Chapter 11, they said it was FUD. When I said that Cell token will cause an issue, they said it was FUD. When I said that regulators are important in this process, they said it was FUD. And when, you know, FTX started to hit this situation, some say FUD, others say not. It's you know, it's a problematic phrase, but I don't really know the solution just based upon the speed of information. But again, I try and apply believability ratios and track records to who I listen to. And I try not to spend too much time believing people that have a track record of calling things FUD when they turn out to be true.
Matt, thanks for your questions. Next, we're going to try BTC again. I'll see BTC.
Hey guys, how we doing?
Hello.
Hey Simon.
Hey.
Bit of history. I've been in crypto for about 11 years. Unfortunately, had about 372 Bitcoin in Mt. Gox, so it's not my first rodeo as such. Two things, Simon. First thing I wasn't really impressed with, I understand KYC and AML, but obviously all of our names being posted online, you know, I have a bit of an issue with. I understand, you know, we had to, you know, understand KYC, don't get me wrong. Obviously, I'm Australian. But that information then becoming public and basically everyone knowing, you know, what was happening towards the end and our names being attached to it is, for me, is an issue. You know, that information I think should be private, but I understand, you know, what was happening. Secondly is, yeah, when we're talking about FTX, you know, obviously, you know, what's happened to...
We did try to fight it. To be fair, Celsius tried to fight it.
Yep.
We tried to fight it, but the judge said it's the bankruptcy law. And there's no, if you want to change the law, change the law. And then he made some exemptions. It was meant to publish email addresses and home addresses. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But I would have been moving house if that did happen.
I would have been moving country if that was happening. That's just innate, yeah. That's yeah. Posting email addresses, you know, all that sort of stuff. That just enables hackers to get our information. Anyway. But getting back to FTX and, you know, what sort of happened with Luna and the flow-on effect. So you know yourself, you know, what happened with Luna, and then we all knew there was going to be a massive flow-on effect. But we didn't understand how overexposed a lot of companies were, including BlockFi, Celsius. And lastly, the reason I didn't go with BlockFi, I actually know Alex, is because they wanted my passport. I'm not giving my passport to anyone. So Celsius accepted my Australian driver's license, which, you know, I thought was okay. So that's the main reason why I didn't go with BlockFi. Celsius, as I say, both their business models, my understanding, weren't so much broken. They were overexposed by basically the way they were earning their income, which led to obviously the lunar fiasco, as I call it, led to all these companies becoming insolvent because of it. And I know we can't talk too much about sort of what happened during those times. We're sort of talking about moving forward, but we're sort of, how do we protect our industry from this stuff repeating itself? You know what I mean, Simon?
Yeah. Well, there was more. There was an internal attack because Celsius was an illegal bank and a legal hedge fund and didn't have any of the protections that have been built with brokerages and banks over the years. And so by not following those, it exposed itself to an internal attack. And then it also built a flywheel based upon an illiquid token and trying to grow as fast as Coinbase as fast as possible, which led to, and there was also complete misrepresentations, which led people to investing more than they should have. And so it's a bit more than just the story of external factors. Plus, they bet long and were short Bitcoin. So they took all of our Bitcoin, or a bunch of our Bitcoin, and invested into an illiquid mining operation, which meant that you were short Bitcoin and exposed yourself to a liquidity crisis. And then by having a token as the backbone of the flywheel, then you expose yourself to external attacks from predatory bids, which essentially FTX did with Celsius, and then Binance did with FTX. So the way you protect yourself is that you have centralized companies that have experienced all these problems since the 1920s when they started, and implement those into these companies. But you can have better regulations because you can have, more innovation on the proof of reserves and blockchain stuff. So you get an opportunity to rebuild it better. And then hopefully we learn our lessons that these flywheels are securities. And therefore we implement, what we've learned over the years around how to prevent loads of people being overexposed and putting their lifetime savings into something that they didn't understand the risks. And this problem will prevail again and again, and there'll be a cat and mouse between DeFi technology innovation and regulations. And the end conclusion I come to is that centralized companies do need to be regulated, and decentralized protocols need to regulate the regulators from corruption by producing an exit from the system. And then we just enter our new hard money cycle where we have CBDCs and hard money, and hopefully people can choose freedom with Bitcoin, and their spending money can be completely surveilled, and we end up into communism on a blockchain with CBDCs. There's no reversing those trends. Embrace them and decide where you're going to be, and learn more as we come through. But what we have to do is rebuild with the model that works for centralized companies, using the regulations that already exist, and then try and progressively change laws, which is what I've been doing for the last decade. So when I didn't like securities laws, I first tried to change them all in the UK so more people could invest. Once we did that, we did it in the US with Jobs Act. So we had equity crowdfunding in the UK, then we had Jobs Act, and more recently doing it for Bitcoin denominated securities in El Salvador.
Simon, it's currently 2:38 Eastern time. Did you want to take one more?
I'll carry on till for another 20.
Perfect. Okay, then we have Tom Foss.
Hey, greetings, folks. Good to listen to this conversation. Simon, I really want to compliment you, if I may. You don't like this, but you're going to have to sit and take it. But this is your comments with regard to being positive during this process, I think, are highly needed now. And I studied economics in college. This is very similar to as Lynn Alden said, that the 1907 bank run that J.P. Morgan kind of bailed out the United States government, and it's okay to be a little positive. This capitalism is, if nothing else, untidy, And we have been doing this as a country for a long time, what, 350 years. And we've done every stupid thing a human being can do, and even more in historically in the past. Latest of which was 2008, but then you have long-term capital management before that, and you have Continental Illinois. So there's a lot of experience on how things blow up. But one of the things our industry is kind of out of its own arrogance. We know technology, so we know better. So rules don't matter, and regulation doesn't count, and that just doesn't work. And we obviously are learning that the hard way. But you've been saying this all along, Simon. So good for you. And nobody wants to have the school teacher tell the students to quit misbehaving. But nonetheless, that's kind of where we're at. And I think what you're doing on behalf of not just Celsius, but the whole community, we owe it to ourselves to not screw this up. And that is the entire digital currency industry, particularly around Bitcoin. And I appreciate all the work you're doing. I hope we continue to keep this clear of ad hominem conversations, though I see that cropping up on Twitter. But we got some bright folks that have been commenting here. I've been listening. We don't lack for talent here. We just right now we lack for patience. And I commend you for all you're doing, and I appreciate it. So thank you all for your time.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I'll comment on a few random things. So firstly, you're making me blush. So, but time preference was a key feature of the book. So we have a concept in economics called time preference, and by default, people value money in the hand over investment, and so you have to compensate for people to increase their time preference. And we learn something called a wealth effect in economics. And a wealth effect is the fundamental principle behind Austrian economics. But in the 1930s, we shifted to a political agenda to support a slow process of making people more and more dependent upon government because of Keynesian economics. And Keynesian economics teaches that during times of liquidity crisis and credit crisis, the government can step in. And then when the market turns around, you have to repay that debt. But the market forgot the second half of Keynesian economics. And then obviously the Chicago School of Economics came along and started to understand that inflation is purely a monetary concept. And so there's a side effect to that from Chicago economics, which is that the more money you create, the more you have inflation. And then people try and blame these supply shocks when really it's a central bank and government created initiative. But also we have these cycles of hard money. And so everything that we've learned about Bitcoin, we've actually just created a new technology of the gold standard. And all the lessons of the gold standard have been learned, and they're playing out in Bitcoin and crypto. But really, a 100-year cycle has become a 10-year cycle. So I always look to history to try and learn. And so that's where I get I'm just an obsessive studier of history and particularly finance. And so it allows me to try and relate a current situation with new technology to a previous situation. And then you can look at exactly what's happened as well. Now, looking at the positive side, my only reason that I financially achieved what I thought was impossible was because I hit so much financial anxiety and distress, and my father lost everything. And at a time when he lost everything, he also lent me money and remortgaged his house in order to back my business that he really didn't understand. And I respected that, treated it just so it drove me to a place where I wanted to work harder than ever to try and respect that. And so only those events were what really led to everything that happened next and gave me a sense of purpose. And so I believe that a lot of people are going to use this event to find a greater sense of purpose and learn the things that they need to learn in order to take away one of society's cancers, which is financial anxiety. I believe that so much time and energy is wasted in the world, even though I'm a monetary geek, just by the process of doing things that you hate in order to pay bills. And I believe that that takes a long-term strategy, particularly in a debt-based Ponzi scheme, to get on the right side of financial history. And so my final comments, which I always say, is that the people that fail financially, from my experience, are the ones that try and achieve too much in 1 year and then underestimate what they could achieve in 10 years. So if there's one thing we could get from this that would be my absolute dream come true, would be that we restructure Celsius and end up with those that hate the process and hate what I've done can just exit their positions to people that love the process and what we've done. And then we could just next year build a 10-year plan for everybody on how to recover from this, and then get ready for the sovereign countries that are going to really need our help and need our support based upon the last decade of experience. And so that's really what wakes me up in the morning, keeps me up at night, and really engaging in this process, because I believe that we have this very, very once in a lifetime situation to do that. And as you said, the JP Morgan strategy didn't work because they were over leveraged, and maybe we get to do things slightly different this time. We'll see, but I'd love to share that journey with everybody that wants to be on that journey. And if you hate what we're doing, then voluntarily we'd like to make markets where you can get out and go to something that's more aligned with your ideology. And I believe in voluntarism. So thank you.
Thank you, Simon. Next we have, and again, everyone, thank you so much for waiting. We just have so many people in the queue, and I'm just trying to do it in the order in which they are requested. Crypto Girl, and then JH.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Simon. I just want to say, first of all, that I do really appreciate you too. And I wouldn't have any hope if I didn't have you to listen to. I'm just a small retailer in Celsius. I'm probably like hundreds of thousands of people who were trying to better their lives in their DeFi and have everything in the Earn program. I don't know if you think there's any hope to get anything out of that. I was not a Cell token holder. But the small retail people like me, are we going to pass this investing quiz? I haven't looked at it yet, but from what I'm hearing of other people who are struggling with it, are we all going to be able to just pass this? And we need to sign up for Bank to the Future, correct? If we hope to get anything back.
Yeah, sorry to take everyone back to school, but it was a process we created when we reformed securities laws in the UK way back before Bitcoin. And we managed to just read the risk warnings, and our support team can help you with some educational materials. But everybody needs to understand what investing in securities are and the risks of them before they can receive a security. So everybody should be able to pass. It's and if you don't know the answer, then you've got something to learn, and that's it. So you get as many goes to pass it. But yeah, at the moment, no, strictly not being misleading, you don't need to create an account with Bank to the Future. But what we're trying to do is build features that support people getting through this Chapter 11 process. And because securities laws globally require quite a lot of process in creating accounts, we're just asking people to sign up early. And we'll be launching different products and features. And if we're blessed enough to have enough backers that want to transfer over to a security law compliant version of an Earn program, or understand how to invest in securities if you qualify for that. And if you don't qualify, using the bankruptcy code in order to receive those securities, we hope that we have the honor of trying to make that happen for everybody. And if we do, we enter into a long-term journey together. At that stage, I'm just going to be doing these with our shareholders and those that are actually part of our community, because those that backed us are the people that I used to do this for, but now I had to do it for everybody just because of the Celsius scenario. And I hope to share that journey with as many people that want to be with us as possible.
Thank you, Crypto Girl. Next we have JH.
Hey, how are you guys doing? I have zero dog in this fight. I don't have anything stuck on Celsius. I don't have anything stuck on Voyager. I got into crypto in this last year and kind of everything fell apart. So Simon, just wanted to say thank you for all people like you and Rob do from Digital Asset News to like try and educate people. I really don't have any a question, but I've seen so many people on here. I kind of just skulk. There's so many people in here who are, you know, freaking out and worried. There's millions and millions of creditors for Celsius, and there's less than 1,000 people who are actually here right now trying to learn. So I guess the only thing I really wanted to say is, if you are one of the 1,000 people who are sitting here right now trying to learn, I think you guys are the ones who need to worry the least. I've seen so many tweets about people, you know, talking about killing themselves and all kinds of just really disgusting, horrible stuff. And I hope it, you know, I just want to make sure everyone knows that everything's going to be all right in the long run. And I don't want to see anyone talking about hurting themselves anymore or anything like that. It's not good for the space. It's not good for anyone. And I just hope everyone takes a deep breath and, you know, kind of takes a step back and realizes that we're the ones who are trying to learn and trying to do the right thing. And we're going to be the ones who are going to be rewarded at the end of the day. And that's all I had. Thank you guys for everything you do.
Thank you. Thank you for that message. Very important. Yeah, we have seen people that go through lows and highs. I've been through lows and highs. Others have been through lows and highs, but that's what these are for. And one thing that's always helped me is that there's two things that really support me in life. It's obviously you have your basic human needs, you know, security, Abraham Maslow's stuff, uncertainty, variety, love and connection. But the things that make us really satisfied, from my experience, is two things. One is growth. And so if you feel like you're doing new things and learning new things, it tends to fill you with a sense of purpose that makes you want to continue along that path. And when you believe you can learn something new, you try new things. And when you try new things, you take new actions. And when you take new actions, you get better results. And it's kind of a, sorry to use the analogy, a flywheel, but on the psychological side rather than the token side. And the other thing is contribution. So I like to give content because, one, you know, let's face it, I have a business and have self-interest, and I hope that you're going to be a part of that business. But secondly, it gives me a sense of satisfaction that you're giving outside yourself, which is why I really enjoyed the whole rise of technology, where when I was at school, we were writing in textbooks, and now we're just on Twitter Spaces sharing information abundantly. And you know, just to be able to contribute outside oneself tends to be the path to fulfillment. So try and remember that when you're consumed in things that take you to a dark place, which we all go to.
Yeah, absolutely. I have one more question, actually. Is there going to be any way that people who aren't involved in the Celsius and all this stuff, are they going to be able to invest in this venture that you're trying to? Because I actually would like to, you know, I have some cash saved on the side that I would like to try and, you know, put towards something with some good use. And I feel like that's something that I would like to, you know, try and put that towards.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a joint offering. It's going to be a new capital raise, and those that put new capital in will be getting slightly different terms, and then those that have claims on Celsius. So yeah, you should, if you're not involved in this process, there'll be an opportunity for new people to join the process as well.
Simon, it's currently 2:55 Eastern time. How long did you want to go for?
Okay, we'll do one more question.
Okay, then we have Plan C. And I want to apologize to everyone that's been waiting. It was an extremely long line, so I was trying to get to you. So I apologize for those that didn't get to ask a question.
Hey guys, yeah, just really quick question for Simon. Just wondering on just licenses for non-accredited international, if that's something you think will be available potentially so that people that are unaccredited international could have the opportunity to invest in the upcoming round?
Yeah, so we got currently at Bank to the Future. We've been for the last year. We've been in license application mode, and we've got 6 pending license applications. And the team have been working day and night to try and close one of those, in which I believe that there's about 3 that are imminent, and I think one of them is going to come through very soon. So we look forward to making a series of announcements. But yeah, we've been looking for lots of jurisdictions that can support non-US retail securities, and are willing to go through the process of battle testing the fact that we're in the crypto markets. And I think we're on the verge of a breakthrough, and it's no secret that I've been in various jurisdictions working on securities law reform, banking reform, pension law reform, and to try and upgrade it for the fact that we now have digital hard sound money that in some countries is legal tender. So hopefully we get to announce that soon, but that's actually one of the reasons why we're delaying. But at the moment, BFID allows you to sign up whatever your situation is, and it's pretty smart because it takes your jurisdiction and figures out what you can do and what you can't do based upon the country you live in. So yeah, firstly, and thanks Plan C for busting the nasty people that were trying to manipulate the vote results, and within half an hour we'd suddenly get 4,000 Twitter polls trying to change the sentiment. That's pretty nasty shit.
It was done very, very amateur hour. Like as far as like how they went about doing it, because it's just so obvious, right? Like I was watching it in real time. I just happened to be on Twitter, checking at your poll because I saw, okay, this one's you had about 5,000 votes, 85% of the vote. And I was like, okay, this is starting to slow down. This seems like it's, naturally, I view tweets and I see like after 24 hours, things kind of slow down. This one was starting to slow down as far as the amount of people voting. And then all of a sudden it just shot up from 5,000 all the way to 8,500, and you dropped from like 85% to 59%. I saw it happening real time. Like literally it was jumping up by 400 votes, 500 votes. And it was just so obvious that it wasn't organic. And, that kind of clicked with me. And I was like, okay, I didn't even know this was something you could do with buying. I knew you could buy followers or whatever. People do that. But as far as like buying actual votes on polls, I didn't even know that was a thing, but clearly that was done. And it just the BitBoy poll. Looking back at that now, it's so obvious that one was also manipulated. So yeah, I mean the UCC probably is aware of this. Everyone in the community is probably aware of this by now. But essentially, Twitter is useless for any kind of polls. Like there's no way to know to what level of manipulation there is on either side. And you can see this in various ways. Like the poll that you did. I mean, you can just see there's a ton of bots that were retweeting that poll. There's so much that was manipulated there. So don't believe anything you see on Twitter for votes on any polls. They're all meaningless. And the only thing that matters is figuring out like a vote with actual Celsius creditors that we can know there's no bots. Other than that, it's meaningless. However, I would say that just read the room. I mean, you can see the amount of people that listen to your spaces. The comments on all the big tweets that go out there within the Celsius creditor community. I mean, it's pretty obvious that you have majority of support. There's a very, very small group that is extremely vocal and is just for whatever reason is determined to make it look like there's any level of support behind a Celsius reorg. Just going to the lengths of manipulating polls is pathetic. But yeah, anyways, that's kind of how I'm seeing it.
Yeah, no, it's a shame though, because I do believe that there was use in the Twitter polls. So I did a lot of Twitter polls to try and figure out what people would want in a plan, and the feedback was really useful, and it was all organic. I don't think there was any manipulation because it really reflected what people were commenting. So people were commenting, and I found that very useful. But now it's a shame that because of that, we can't really use it.
Yeah,
So
it's like
yeah.
poisoning the well, right? It's poisoning the well because even if even if there were other polls that were not manipulated, it's impossible to know if they were or weren't. But I mean, you can sense just by observing polls, like it's pretty obvious when one's manipulated to that degree. And yeah, there are some that I've seen that are most likely weren't manipulated. There's a lot that weren't, but it's just now it's unfortunate. It's like poisoning the well. So
yeah, and the funny thing is like bots are like the bane of my life. Like I get so many bots that are just trying to scam my followers, and every single post that I post, and particularly since the Celsius scenario, I just get these people automatically posting under my things, and people are turning that into that I'm trying to do exactly what they're accusing or what they're doing. So it's quite funny, but I can say for the record, I'll say it under oath. I've never felt the need to use a bot. If someone's giving useful feedback and useful information, then I try and consume that, not try and manipulate the reality. Okay, so all right, thanks everybody. What a day, what a week. What does the rest of the week give us? What does the months ahead give us? I will try and give you my best thinking in real time. I've never really had to give so many updates and so much information. But, you know, as I said, and I always have said, you are alive at one of the most interesting and crazy and exciting time in financial history. Some people are going to get really hurt. Others are going to do really well. And I really hope that we've built the foundation of creditors and shareholders and investors and everyday people that believe that the future of finance brings something better than what most people are experiencing. I hope that we've built that here. And as I said, whatever the outcome is, if you don't end up on the side that you're fighting for legally, I think we can have market solutions. And if you hate the solution that you're put into, I think we can create market solutions where you can get the hell out and be the place that you want to be, and those that want to be with us. Because there's nothing I would like less than a bunch of people that are shareholders in our company that don't want to be there. That's literally my idea of a nightmare. I've come too far financially in life to really spend time with people that don't give me an immense pleasure or grow me as a human. And so I don't want any of those people. So we'll try and create markets so you can get out, but try and think about what's right for most creditors, because you're not going to get exactly what you want. But as a creditor, you know, we need to think about what's right for the vast majority of people, and try and limit the alternative agendas if you can. You know, the price of your token should not affect the outcome for billions of people that have truly been victimized in this situation, and their potential recovery to not be a victim, but to turn this into an incredible opportunity and a changing moment in their life. And I hope we can build that together. I can't promise that, but I can tell you, until the bid is over, then I will be engaging in this process. Once the bid is over, then I've just got to focus on my book, my shareholders, and those that want to be with me as we share this journey beyond this crazy event and time in financial history. So always remember, peace, love, unity, and we'll see you on the next AMA. Peace.